Father's Day to all you fathers. Woo! My name is Jackie, and I am your worship associate for this service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County. This service is being broadcast live on YouTube and will be available as a recording on the UUFCC YouTube channel after the service. However, your patience will be appreciated as there's a slight delay at the end to close the YouTube connection. I'd like to remind you of a couple simple procedures that will help our service and broadcast run smoothly. This would be a good time to put your phones in meditation mode. And if you're like me, I forget. For those with us virtually, you may wish to have a candle or chalice available for our chalice lighting ritual. For those in the sanctuary, we ask that you socially distance as appropriate and use masks in the sanctuary and when socializing outside, unless medically unable to do so. As you have heard, our service each week by singing an invitation to gather together, even as we are scattered in many different places, whether our sacred space be virtual or live. I also wish to express my gratitude to those supporting technology this morning, Corey and Tom. Yay, you guys, woo! We're so glad you're here. To Bobby and the building grounds team and all others who make this physical space a joy to behold. To our membership committee and their team of greeters. We thank Jim and Jerry and the members of the UUFC Quan Choir for this morning's recorded music. Whew. Whatever your faith or the country of your heritage, you are welcome here. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. And whether you entered in on little feet, or walked in briskly, or ambled or rolled in, you are welcome here. Whether you are relatively new to our community, or have been an active member for decades, you are welcome here. We are glad you chose this congregation as your place of worship today. If you are new here or have not been here for a long time, please stand in body or spirit or wave and state your first names and where you are from so that we can welcome you. Anybody new? How about anybody that hasn't been here for a while? Besides Charlie. Woohoo! Hi, Charlie! If you are new at home and would like to learn more about our fellowship, you can email Mary Jane at office@uufcc.org or visit our website at uufcc.org. And wherever you are, we are glad you have chosen to spend your time with us this morning. Today, our speaker is Rev. Kathy Schmitz, whose sermon is entitled, Say Gay. Yay! We are so thrilled. We will now open the sacred space by turning our attention to the chalice through words written in the hymnal from the Passover Haggadah. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers, to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. Now, while Robert will light our chalice here in the sanctuary, please join me in reciting our affirmation. Shortly there will be time to light your chalices at home. Is it up there? Oh, good. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. Our prelude this morning is recorded. It's an instrumental by Jerry, one of our choir members, and she's playing Over the Rainbow.
Good morning. Our opening words come from my colleague Gretchen Haley, titled Forged in the Fire of Our Coming Together. We are all connected, stronger together. Love's hands called to create justice, responsible for one another and the world. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? In these days, we often find ourselves too often stuck with these questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes, and forwarded emails as if the new zodiac, capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way. As if we could prepare. As if life had ever made any promises of making sense or turning out the way we thought. As if we are also not actors in this still unfolding story. For this hour, we gather to surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from the needing to know, the yearning to have it all already figured out, and also the burden of believing that we either have all the control or none. Here in our song and our silence, our stories and our sharing, we make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. That is our courage, forged in the fire of our coming together and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith. That we still believe a new world is possible. That we are creating it. Already, here and now. Come, let us worship together. Our song is There's More Love Somewhere. Beautiful. Our story this morning may be familiar to some of you. It comes from my colleague Christopher Bice and is titled Enemies. Once there was a little girl who was queen of an island. One day an advisor said to her, "Your Majesty, the people on our island are good, but we must beware of the people on the next island, for they are our enemies." "Our enemies," responded the Queen. "How terrible!" "Yes, it is terrible," said the advisor. "For our little island will never be safe while we have enemies. We must find a way to get rid of our enemies." "You're quite right," said the Queen. "Do you have any ideas?" "I do indeed," said the advisor. "We can take our army, put it on a ship, sail to the other island, then our army can march on shore and destroy the enemy." The Queen was not sure this was a good idea. "Thank you for sharing your ideas," said the Queen, "but I will need some time to think about it. Can you come back tomorrow?" "Yes, Your Majesty," said the advisor. He bowed and left the room. The next day, when the advisor returned, he found the Queen having tea with the Queen of the next island. He turned red with anger. "How can you sit there and drink tea with this person?" he shouted. "She is our enemy. We must get rid of our enemies." The Queen looked at her advisor with eyes that were calm and steady. "You have been a good advisor, and you were right. We have to get rid of our enemies. You would have me destroy my enemies by conquering them with an army. But the best way to get rid of your enemies is to make them your friends."
We have a long tradition at UUFCC of sharing our joys, concerns, and life milestones by entering them into the Book of Life. These messages can be written in the red book at the back of the sanctuary. Mary Lou, will you please bring up the Book of Life? Okay, let's see. What's the date? 19th. Well, I see it. Okay. Oh, okay, because I have one for Alice too. Okay, I talked with Alice this morning. She has been in Sarasota Memorial Hospital for over a week. On Friday, she had a liver biopsy and is now at home. She expects the results tomorrow. She and George recently moved to an independent living facility in Northport, and Mary Jane will email their new address to us tomorrow. Their daughter is here and will remain indefinitely. Please send cards. And that's from Dennis. Lori is on a mini vacation in Ann Arbor visiting our grandson who turned 21 and friends that she hasn't seen for a long time. And this surprised me. Chase Bank is closed tomorrow in celebration of June umpteenth. I think that's fantastic. We needed that. Now this is from Pat, a member of our choir. She's quite wordy. Another great-grandchild is due in November. Makes 4 now. Didn't know I was that old. I miss everyone and hope to get back down this winter or maybe late fall. P.S. My granddaughter is now a doctor, just graduated. I hope she will take care of me when I admit to being old. Someday, but not soon. And I just wanted to say to be extra careful is because the heat is really high right now. Okay. May we hold these and our unspoken joys and concerns in our hearts. May we also hold one another in love and tenderness so that this fellowship may be a source of strength and comfort, courage and hope in the days and weeks ahead. Let us take a moment of silence.
Well, let me add my happy Father's Day to the fathers among us, and also a wish for tenderness to all those for whom the idea of fatherhood is at best complicated. And I also want to give a shout out for Juneteenth. Some of you may know, and some may not know, that Florida's Emancipation Day is actually May 20th. It beat Texas by almost a month. But Juneteenth became a federal holiday last year, acknowledging Texas finally hearing the Emancipation Act on June 19, 1865, 40 days after the end of the Civil War, and 2 years after the proclamation was first issued by President Abraham Lincoln, freeing those enslaved in the southern states. So our words to prepare for meditation today are responsive, and I want to give you a little history. They're from our hymnal, well, they're adapted from our hymnal, numbers 576, which was originally by Reverend Marjorie Bowen Wheatley. In the days after the Pulse shootings, it was adapted by my colleague Heather Januels, and then by our intern in Orlando, Rachel Christensen, and then eventually with Reverend Clyde Grubbs, the widower of the author and the copyright holder. And it was to adjust to the changing nature of our world, and in specific, the events of Pulse. So when I do this, I invite you to say, "It does not matter." You want to try first once? It does not matter. Okay. If recognizing the interdependence of all life, we strive to be community, the strength we build will be our salvation. If you live in Charlotte County and I live in Orlando, if your skin is black or brown and mine is white,
It does not matter.
if you are female and I am male,
It does not matter.
if you are cisgender and I am transgender,
It does not matter.
if you are straight and I am queer,
It does not matter.
if you are Christian and I am Muslim or Jewish or atheist,
It does not matter.
if you were born here and I am an immigrant,
It does not matter.
if you are Anglo and I am Latinx,
It does not matter.
if we join in solidarity with one another, the pain of our aloneness is lessened, and that does matter. In this spirit, we build community and move toward restoration. Let's take a moment in silence before we hear Spirit of Life. Since this is my last time with you, at least for now, I have a few things to say before the sermon, so if you'll allow me 2 minutes. First, I want to say how impressed I am with the hard work you have done to get through the last 2 years. The pandemic and other challenges have forced you to adapt and learn and adapt again. You have risen to the challenge. You have continued to live out your mission of being a liberal religious community committed to diversity and social justice, where spirituality, reason, compassion, service, and fellowship meet. I am so grateful for this opportunity to have accompanied you through this time. I now refer to it as my accidental ministry. I raised my hand to volunteer to speak one Sunday, and now 15 months, 19 services, and many, many meetings and conversations later, my heart is full. Thank you for trusting me. I'm sorry that geographic distance and the virus meant we couldn't spend more time in person, and that I didn't have a chance to get to know you better as individuals and as a group. I am so hopeful for your future. I am hopeful that your evolving technology will help you stay connected with one another and with the wider community. I'm hopeful that your continued commitment to anti-oppression work and social justice will make a real difference in real lives. I am hopeful that your attention to improving communications and having difficult conversations will make you stronger, personally and collectively. Mostly, I am hopeful that you will continue to shine your light boldly into a county, a state, a nation, and a world that all need so badly the blessing of liberal religion. May it be so. Thank you. For me, it was never hard. It was exhausting, but never hard. Our mission to preach love and hope in the face of hate and violence was more clear than it had ever been. This was my takeaway 5 years ago as I reflected on the Pulse nightclub shooting the year before. I had hoped, as everyone does after such a tragedy, that it might help bring about an end to the hate, to the violence. But history continues to unfold, and it is truly exhausting at times. Are we still really debating all the things? That's the hard part, the bewilderment that we can't or won't do the things we can. Yet the one thing I know, our mission to preach love and hope in the face of hate and violence is clear, crystal clear, and not just for us clergy types, for all of us. We cannot let our frustration and our fatigue still our voices. We know another way is possible. I have seen it with my own eyes. The events of June 12, 2016 were a recipe for division. A gay bar, a Latin-themed night, a shooter claiming ties to radical Islam, 49 dead, over 50 wounded. It could have torn Orlando apart, but it did not. We refused to be divided. We refused to be divided by sexual orientation, gender identity, ethnicity, or religion. We claimed our common humanity. We refused to paint any community as evil. We saw that our diverse communities were not distinct, but rather overlapped, mingled, and merged. We recognized the intersectionality of our lives. This was a blessing in the midst of the unbelievable, but it wasn't a given. Communities can be torn apart by such tragedy. That the Orlando community turned to love and hope was not an accident. It was a choice. One, I like to believe that the Unitarian Universalist congregations there were part of supporting. First Unitarian Church of Orlando, where I was serving at the time, became an outlying hub of activity. Just 3 miles from Pulse, we were by 1 p.m. that first afternoon, providing overflow counseling space for the local LGBTQ+ center. We were contacted by several groups, including the Brady Campaign and Equality Florida, and our library and fellowship hall became community organizing space. For several days, we were abuzz with activity. Much of the planning for the 7,000-person vigil that next evening happened in that space. Volunteers from the congregation, many in their yellow side with love shirts, helped to set up for the vigil. And we were quickly found by media outlets. Staff learned a new skill, managing the press. I was on the radio, interviewed by NPR, BBC Australia, and more. For me, it was exhausting, but never hard. Our mission to preach love and hope in the face of hate and violence was more clear than it had ever been. 49 dead, 49 lives, over 50 wounded, lives changed forever. All of our lives changed. People stopped by, called to offer help, dropped off donations. We were overflowing with food and water. That which we couldn't make use of went to the Coalition for the Homeless. We were well fed by local restaurants. There were vigils, so many vigils. Members were part of a counter-protest when a hate group tried to disrupt the funerals of some of the victims. Angel wings became part of our lives. Unitarian Universalists joined with others to reach out, to speak up, and to sit in so many ways. The LGBTQ+ community had been targeted. The Latinx community was impacted. The Muslim community was made vulnerable. We did not pit communities against each other. We know that a healthy community supports everyone. Community leaders knew that too. They knew that they needed support. They reached out to each other and to others who had suffered tragedies of their own around the country. I personally was supported at that time by the UU Trauma Ministry, who checked in with me daily for 3 weeks. Coalitions formed, groups found common purpose, and the intersection of oppression became more clearly understood. We all have multiple identities. How do we honor the whole of who people are, their gender identity or sexual orientation, and their race or ethnicity, and their immigration status, and their faith, and. How do we see each other as whole and beautiful human beings? We began to see each other more clearly, more fully. Now, I don't want to claim that Orlando got everything right, but we got a lot right. And we worked to remedy problems as they emerged. Even in our unity, we were able to acknowledge and wrestle with the cracks that came to light. Speaking only for the interfaith community, I can tell you that hearts were searched and changed. People started showing up at LGBTQ+ events that I would never have expected there. I was sometimes frustrated at the sudden insight of the newly enlightened, but they were trying, and it would help. The world watched, vigils morphed into fundraisers, artists responded, a community united, and in Orlando, there was life before and life after Pulse. And there's still work to be done. The interesting thing about being close to a big event is that it's hard to remember that not everyone else has had the same experience. And so it is deeply confusing that others have not learned the same lesson. That's where I find myself these days. How can it be? How can it be that our state legislators thought that it was a good idea to pass a bill that limited the ability of our teachers to support all families? The law, labeled by critics "Don't Say Gay," sends a dangerous message to young children and vulnerable teens. Same-sex marriage has been legally recognized in our state for over 7 years. And teachers can't mention their spouses by name. And the children of those unions cannot talk about their parents at school. This is not just absurd, it is cruel. And for queer and questioning teens, it is potentially lethal. We limit what children can learn about themselves and each other. We limit what they can learn about the rich and complicated history of race in our nation. Why? Why? These things cannot hurt our children. These things enrich our children. We are limiting the very things that children need to be part of transforming our culture with more diversity, equity, and inclusion. And yet, we refuse to limit access to firearms. Firearms that take the lives of some and traumatize the rest. It's not just absurd, it is cruel. Especially since we know there's another way. Now, I don't think a person needs to be a Unitarian Universalist to imagine another way. But let me spend a few moments reflecting on how our tradition might inform us at a time like this. And by at a time like this, I mean like after Pulse, or when our state government enacts cruel legislation, or when the rash of violence in supermarkets, houses of worship, elementary schools, and hospitals seems almost too much to bear. Back 6 years ago, our rallying cry was, "We are one Orlando, Orlando strong," and yet we are left with many questions. Many that we still struggle with today. Why is there so much suffering of the young, of the innocent? How do we counter the hatred and the fear? We yearn for justice, for accountability, and yet we too often settle for finding someone to blame. We want answers, and yet we may not find the answers we seek. We may be left to live with uncertainty and doubt. My friends, it is better to live with doubt and uncertainty than to boast false claims of certitude. We say the words love, one world, one humanity. These are not facts. They are dreams. They are statements of faith. And we need that faith now more than ever. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition is the merger of two traditions. Our Unitarian side brought us the idea that God is one. It speaks to the unity of our world and of existence. Our Universalist side brought us the idea that God is love. It speaks to the creative power of an open heart. While some of us today will understand these ideas more metaphorically and others more concretely, we are left with a faith in what is possible. One love, one world, one humanity. In that oneness, what are we to do with the gunman? In that oneness, what are we to do with the voices of hatred that inexplicably rise at a time like this? I want to make them evil. I want to make them other. I cannot. One world, one love, one humanity. Those whose words and actions hurt my heart are part of the fabric of humanity. I cannot make them other. I am compelled to try to understand them as a broken and wounded part of who we are. I was asked by a reporter in the days after Pulse if I was angry. I said I was sad, deeply, deeply sad. What about my people, he asked. Are they angry? I said I thought that they were mostly angry at the hateful rhetoric that had arisen in the wake of the shooting. 6 years later, answers about the shooter and his motives still elude us. I hold the shooter responsible for his choices. I also see a larger environment that made those choices possible and maybe even likely. We, as a larger culture, need to search our hearts and continue to speak and act to counter those forces. We need to stand against words and ideologies that create an environment of hate and intolerance. We need to advocate for mental health care for all. We need to work for responsible gun ownership that keeps all guns out of the hands of some people, and some guns out of the hands of all people. In an interconnected world, individuals exist within the culture that helps to create them. This is where our hope comes. One love, one world, one humanity. Can we commit ourselves to transforming our world away from hatred, away from violence, and toward love, compassion, and care? We do this in many ways, but all of them involve deeper, more authentic relationship. All of them involve community, real community that nurtures real connection and celebrates the full humanity of each person. For this morning, let me name 3 things I see that we can continue to work on as we move forward. First, we need to continue to support those who are still hurting and healing from the tragedies we've already seen. In Orlando, this includes those close to the 49, the survivors, and the first responders, of course. Other cities and towns have their own lists, sadly. But it's also many more people. People who sometimes think they don't have the right to need healing because they weren't directly impacted. When UUs from around the country contacted us to know where they should donate after Pulse, we said, donate to your local LGBTQ plus center. They will need your support as they support the vicarious trauma that has been encountered. Look especially for centers that serve the Latinx community. Our whole community was traumatized. It's okay to get help. Now I know that this is true after every one of these events. Now I know that the impact is broader than I had previously known. Now I know that there are abundant ways all of us can offer support, both practical and emotional. The second thing we can continue to do is to reach out across difference. Many Unitarian Universalist congregations are good at finding those kind of opportunities. I know you've done it in some ways, and I encourage you to continue to explore meaningful activities. I've seen congregations that attend or host iftars, the breaking of the fast, the daily fast in the Ramadan fast in the Muslim tradition. I've seen congregations host interfaith events on language in the way that can inspire either peace or provoke hate. People partner with groups that bring diverse demographics together, and you don't have to do this alone, right? There are others in your community that are doing this work. You don't have to start from scratch. You can see someone that's doing a good thing and support their efforts. So we need to continue to support those who are still healing. We need to continue to reach out across difference. Lastly, and related to this, we need to take advantage of opportunities to deepen our intercultural competency. We need to understand those who are different from us in all sorts of ways. We need to know how to move into new spaces and new experience in ways that help and don't hurt. We need to recognize that our best intentions will not keep us from making mistakes. Yet we have to be brave enough to continue to reach out, knowing we will make mistakes and being willing to make amends when necessary. The continuing development of our intercultural competency is a lifelong project. You never get to check the box that you're done. And it is crucial to the world of which we dream. These actions, continuing to heal, reaching out, and learning more, can provide us critical tools as we move forward. These steps can help us, all of us, to bring more blessings to our world. When we see the worst that humanity has to offer, we are called to respond with the best that humanity has to offer. Love and hope, acceptance and affirmation, bravery and commitment. I know. I know we are tired, we are worn. There will be times when you need to step back and take care of yourself. Recharge your compassion. It can be tempting to turn away, to disconnect. But be careful. Take a break if you need, but don't be broken. Don't sever your ties to community. Don't allow your relationships to be injured or dismissed. We will each tend our wounds in different ways. We will process at different speeds. Let that be the first point of difference that we honor. Today, you may be ready to talk and talk and talk, and I may need silence. May we respect each other's journeys. And then as time goes on, let us reach out for deeper and more understanding. We will make real change in the world by creating authentic relationships. Across difference, of course, but also with those closest to us. We can find our common ground while at the same time celebrating the beauty and wonder of our diversity. So what can you do? What can you do? So much, and it all starts with an open heart. An open heart that lets others in and refuses to other anyone. Anyone. An open heart that lets your light shine out. Your full humanity. All and every bit of who you are. What the world needs now is you. So let your light shine. May it be so.
Wow. Wow. You are amazing. In our tradition, congregations exist because of the generous support of members and friends. It is our privilege and our responsibility to ensure the health and future of this fellowship. To this end, you're offering support the ministry of this fellowship, whether by pledge or donation, and may be offered online. For those at home, you can mail checks to the office, drop them in our mailbox, or call the office to make other arrangements. We are also equipped to accept donations through the Venmo app. Payments through this app should be made to UUFCC. Your generosity is always appreciated. If you are with us for the first time, do not feel obligated to give. Your presence is our gift. Now, while we have the ushers passing the donation baskets, we will be listening to recorded instrumental music, the collection of Rejoicing by G.F. Handel by Jim. Now it is time to highlight the UUFCC special events and activities. Please remember to check your weekly UUFCC updates, which includes a calendar and links for connecting via Zoom or in person and descriptions of all kinds of fun things that are coming up. Also, make sure that you regularly visit our constantly updated website. Additionally, if you would like to have fellowship events highlighted during the service, you can email the worship associate at bookoflife@uufcc.org. We have a few announcements today. Okay, Dennis, our board president, would like to make an announcement with an assistance by the new chairperson of the Hospitality Committee, Susie.
Sure.
They've really been beautiful. I wish you'd all gotten to see them the yesterday. Oh, thank you. Very good.
Reverend Kathy, as I tried to think about what I would say to you this morning, in gratitude for this fellowship's gratitude for your accidental ministry, I started a list. And I realized very quickly that this is turning into another sermon, which of course can't be. But I want you to know that your sermons have consistently, month after month after month, inspired. Your counseling with individuals and groups has just been so wonderful. One of the things that I know I speak for Laurie D. as well as myself, your availability gave us such a sense of security, and it was so welcome. You're wise. Over and over and over again, problems would come up, and the way you would approach them would solve them. All the workshops you gave, I attended many. I learned a lot. Now, I hope I can actually remember to use it. Your attitude is just so welcoming. You obviously are a tremendously caring individual and quite rare. You have more than any other individual helped this community heal. And for that, we will always, always hold you close to our heart. You're also going to be really, really missed. So I'll end by simply saying that we wish you the best as you're ready to start another adventure. And I'd like to give you this little gift as a thank you.
Thank you. We are looking to supplement our 10:30 a.m. service with live instrumental or masked vocal music during the time that our music director is on vacation, and that's now through October. If you or someone you know may be interested in this opportunity, please contact Laurie Douglas for further information, including the payment. We have a local group is offering a scholarship in Sonia Waters' name. Checks can be made out to DWC Scholarship Fund. Donors should write Sonia Waters' name on the memo portion of the check or include a note that their donation is in Sonia's memories. It's preferred that the checks be mailed to Judith Orlowski, DWC Treasurer, at 1181 Dewhurst Street, Port Charlotte, Florida 33952. You can also drop checks can be dropped off at the Charlotte County Democratic Club, 3596 Tamiami Trail in Port Charlotte during office hours, and their office hours are from 10 to 1. The former Caring and Hospitality Committee has become two separate groups. The caring committee will continue to lead the fellowship's direct caring for individuals through calls, visits, rides, meals, and cards. The two groups will collaborate to assist with receptions following celebration of life and other special events, as requested by the family and the leadership. You can check updates for further information. This one is fun. In case you missed the invitation that went out last week, UUFCC is trying out a new communication method for summer activities. You may sign up to be part of the new Google group by following the link in the UUFCC updates. That's another reason for the updates. This group is an opt-in email where you can discuss and receive messages of a social nature regarding pop-up and scheduled activities and field trips over the summer. It's easy to join and easy to leave if you decide you need to take a break or want to unsubscribe completely. The art committee meeting is canceled till July. And I have a note from John Lee that we need people to sign up for coffee. There is no one signed up for next Sunday for coffee. So, please kind of think about it. One other announcement. The COVID testing site is back and operating. The hours are officially 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. But the company has cut it back for a team to one nurse. So please be understanding if she is taking a break or unavailable for some reason. The fellowship has no control over her hours. Now we have recorded music by Holly Neer singing For Our Lives.
We are gentle and free people, and we are singing for our lives. We are gentle and free people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing for our lives. We are a peaceful, loving people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a peaceful, loving people, and we are singing for our lives. Come on, lots of harmony.
The closing words for the sermon I offer again as closing words for our time together and for my hope for your future together. So what can you do? So much, and it all starts with an open heart. An open heart that lets others in and refuses to other anyone. An open heart that lets your love shine out, your full humanity, all and every bit of who you really are. What the world needs now is you. So let your light shine.
Before we extinguish the chalice, I just want to say it has been my pleasure to be up here this morning with this group. You are one heck of a beautiful group, and I love you all. To you. Woo! You guys are great. Okay, now we will extinguish this chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. Thank you, Robert. Thanks again, Robert. As you leave, those who need a smooth surface to exit the building, please feel free to exit out the double doors where John Lee is standing. Or you can exit out this door here. Please enjoy the patio for our social time. Coffee will be available through our weekly volunteers. Don't forget to sign up for coffee. Now, it's time to wake up your phones. We will now end with Go Now in Peace.